Okay, here we are. I've been meaning to put this out for a while. We are doing our album review of I Used the Winning. It was her all along. No, I'm kidding. So, when it comes to talking about this album, I think we gotta kind of mention first and foremost, just kind of more or less the kind of songwriter that she is. And first and foremost, a lot of times it's very unorthodox, I think is a very fair way to say her music writing has always been. But the thing that I find that she nails two things on in everything that I've ever heard, which is actually quite a bit at this point. When it comes to I Use the Winning, it is atmospheric but relatable. And I think that that's how most of her music can be classified, to be honest. I really do. So, I think this is probably the first time I've ever talked about this. The way I score is usually I start it with a perfect score and then everything I dislike knocks down the score. So, that's how this always kind of works. Let's talk about the tracks first and foremost. And that is number one being Shopper. Now, when I think of the one Shopper, I feel like that this one is a very easy, little more casual feel to be able to listen to. I feel like a lot of people can get into the Shopper. It's very, I just feel a good start. I feel like that it's a very impressive way to kind of ease people into the album. The next track that I think we need to talk about is obviously we're going down the track list. So next would be Holssi. And at first, I actually didn't care too much about the track. I thought that it was pretty decent. But as I kind of continued to listen to it for this review, that track kind of did end up growing on me. And I have to say, again, probably the biggest reason is because of the atmosphere that she creates. And it's dynamic and it's unorthodox. It's got a really interesting break for a rap section that I feel like really kind of ends up being quite a unique centerpiece for the track or for the CD, because the fact is it shows that she can get creative and it shows that she has the ability to be able to do some stuff that is a little more unorthodox, probably because she owns her own company and she's able to do fun stuff like the song Holssi. Now, weirdly enough, again, I didn't really care for the song Shh. We're moving on to Shh now. And I actually really did not care for it. However, I think the one thing that is what ended up happening for me is as I review review albums, the way that I kind of go about judging it, and I say this every single time, there's three ways that I do it. How does it fare in public when everybody else can listen? How it fares by myself when I am with headphones? And I think the other one too is generally how does it feel when you are using it as background noise. Those are the general things that I use, because I think that a great album can do all of it. It's something you can focus on, it can be background noise, and it's something that you can also study and enjoy. And then also, it's kind of weird to say this, but I feel like that there's a way for some albums where if you're listening to it in public, you can be like, ooh, it might be just a tad bit cringe. And I think that that's kind of weird to say, but it's true. For me, when I really noticed this song was actually when I started to listen to it headphones only. And having seen the video, having kind of known what the back plot is behind it, it really holds a huge feeling. The biggest thing that I think for me personally as to why I have grown so attached to listening to IU is because of the fact that when you listen to her stuff, she is not afraid to talk about things that are on her mind. And I think the interesting thing is that a lot of times, one of the things that I relate heavily to, she talks a lot about age and passing of time. And that's where she kind of comes in for me, because it ends up kind of breaking it down into almost like a 3-generation kind of feel to it. Obviously, you know, with this featuring Hien, Wonsoon, and, you know, obviously we got Patty Kim and IU herself. And it really just ends up becoming a really huge step, because you almost get every single perspective, from young to middle age to older. And again, like I said, that's something that I really like about IU, because she is one who is not afraid to be like, hey, I'm leaving my 20s now and this feels weird. Hey, I'm leaving my 30s now, this feels weird, and I wish that I could explain my feelings. And she does that a lot, and honestly, that's something that I personally dwell very heavily on, is getting older. It's something that I feel like that I can relate to whenever I listen to this. Also, Joe and Special Nar are in that song too. So that song actually kind of ended up winning me over. I actually thought for the longest time that was the weak link, but I don't think so. Not anymore. Then we come on to the next track. We're moving on now. We are going to be talking about Love Wins All. I don't exaggerate when I say this, that for me, all the other songs could have been her playing bongos and screeching. But if this album was on here, this would still be an album of the year, because to me, Love Wins All is not just a great track that comes from a great songwriter. This makes the entire album, I think, an album of the year contender. I think Love Wins All is a greatest of all time song. And not even like within K-pop or Korean music. To me, Love Wins All has the atmosphere, it has the emotion, it has the, I think at this point, prestige of the song itself. Like, this song, I've seen a lot of people who are now covering this at concerts on her show, and, well, maybe not concerts, but I've seen it on her show, and I've seen a couple people cover it. And it is probably one of the most emotionally impactful songs that I've ever heard. That is the truth. This is, to me, a perfect song. I think it's just so incredibly well written, and it just strikes an emotional chord, and the music video is phenomenal. I cannot say that enough. And usually I don't bring up music videos in terms of like album reviews, but I think it's worth shouting out, because that music video makes me cry every time. And then, of course, I thought after some point, after having listened to that song many, many times, that I had gotten over it. Well, then she decided to have Kyung-soo from EXO on her show, and then he sang it, and it just reopened up all the old floodgates and just left me into a pile of sniveling mess, because he did such a good job with it. But to me, again, I think that this track is an all-time great, and it is a 5 out of 5. So I think that that's just how it goes. No beating around the bush. It's one of the greatest songs of all time. Next, for the final song, I Stan You, is kind of an interesting thing, because it's technically like a thank you or like a love letter to the fans. Basically, like, I love you guys and your support that you've had for me all these years. I love what you've done for me and let me be able to live this dream. And then she drops this bomb of just like, I support you as much as you support me. And I love that, because honestly, it creates for a very sweet moment between her and the fans. And listen, I am a multi-stan. So I don't generally come out and profess being like, I could see myself being in this fandom. I could see myself being in this fandom as an actual, like, Iuna. So to me, it's kind of crazy to say this, because I don't think I've actually done this before, but I do have to put one small caveat in saying that I don't think this is a perfect album, but I would give this album a 5 out of 5. I would. This album is everything that I think most people would hope for. This is the comeback that I think most people was hoping for from IU herself. And in fact, I think it pushes past what people were hoping for. I think that from after having her previous release, which was also very solid, and we're not talking about singles, we're talking about her last EP, which was Pieces, and again, really emotionally charged. And I think that this album itself is very emotionally charged in many different ways. So I think that that's why, honestly, as much as I am a Dreamcatcher fan, that is, I have always declared that as my favorite group, this to me would probably be album of the year right now. I can't fully declare it yet, but there is a lot of other albums that I think have been really, really good, but this has been exceptional. IU has truly released a classic with this. In my personal opinion, this is just such a good release. And honestly, to me, I was not planning on buying any of her albums when I first went through her 1 week club, but here I am now. I had to get this, and I had to get a special copy. I did not want to get some jewel case either. That's how much this album means to me. I think that this album is absolutely just an all-timer. So, yeah, this is a channel first, 5 out of 5. Even though, again, I wouldn't say that this is a perfect album, but it's as perfect as I think one can honestly be. So, that is my review of IU's The Winning. It's just such a phenomenal album. If you haven't listened to it, I would highly recommend it. And, yeah, thank you all so much. We're going to leave this here, and we will see you in the next video. Goodbye.